Hey everybody, welcome to Rob's Game Group on YouTube. I'm Rob and I'll be your host through this series of videos. But first I had something that I want to get out there to everybody. I've had several viewers talk to me or message me and ask me about helping the channel, helping support the channel. And I've gotten suggestions from Patreon and I should do the coffee thing or direct PayPal. And to be honest, I don't really want to do any of that. And I've never been about monetizing the channel. But what you can do to help are three things. Like and share the videos, subscribe to the channel if you enjoy this content, and now, if you look in the description of every video, you will find a link to the Rob's Game Group wish list on Amazon. Check it out. If there's something on there that you want to see me review or do a look at the book of, you can purchase it. It'll be sent to me. It helps me, helps the channel, without you sending money and me having to deal with that. I would rather just get stuff to help make videos that you guys want to see, guys and gals. So that's there. It's going to be in every video. Be sure to go check it out. You can also make suggestions to me in the comments if there's other games and stuff and products on Amazon that you want me to check out. I can add them to the list as well. You can just comment, or you can message me on Rob's Game Group on Facebook. Link to that is also going to be in the description. So that's just a way that you guys can help me help you with videos that you want to see. And speaking of videos, let's go check this one out. So in this video, I'm going to try to answer a question or respond to a request from Retro DM Ray, who is a part of our community here. And a while back, a few videos ago, I had posted in one of my Rob's Rambles videos for you guys to and gals to post topics that you wanted me to do videos on. And I'm trying to get them all done. I'm trying to answer everybody. It may just take time. I got some great responses. But Ray's question, it's a tricky one. And it's one that I'm going to try to tackle here. He wants to know if I have any tips or tricks for getting younger, like kids, or newer players that are used to, like, 5th edition D&D or Pathfinder, interested in playing retro clones or OSR games of earlier versions of D&D. And that's just, that can be really tricky and dependent on the person, and I'm not sure if I actually have tips and tricks that are going to be helpful. But I'm going to try here, and I'm going to basically hit some topics that you, as the game master, referee, dungeon master, whatever you want to be called, should think about in your desire to move. Because I know for him, I've spoken to him in messages, I know for him it's about getting his kids to play earlier versions of D&D, and they want to play 5th edition or Pathfinder or something more modern D&D. And we come from two different perspectives, because he knows I run kids games and I run OSR kids games. But the reason we come at it from different perspectives is my kids have never tried 5th edition or Pathfinder. They played children's versions of RPGs like Hero Kids and stuff like that, and messed around a little bit with Savage Worlds. But they're really cutting their teeth on fantasy gaming by playing basic fantasy and white box. And basic fantasy is mainly what I think Ray wants to move his kids into. And I'm going to make some comments to that point as well. So my kids haven't experienced the more modern D&D, like I said, just because they were at an age and so young in their gaming career that I didn't feel they were ready for all of the options and modifiers and everything that goes into playing 5e and Pathfinder. Not that I find those games to be overly hard, but I also have a couple of years on them as far as being exposed to different role-playing systems. So my kids love it, and they're especially loving white box even more than basic fantasy, and I'll get into more of that in a minute. So I guess the first thing you have to understand or think about is the direction that we're coming at the OSR from when we're wanting to get kids into it. And when I say kids, I mean, up to, 20-somethings, maybe even 30-something, maybe they didn't cut their teeth on old D&D at all. Maybe it was 3rd ed and 4th ed and 5th ed. But if they've never played old D&D, then one of the things you have to realize is when we are looking at things like basic fantasy and Labyrinth Lord and white box and Osric and all this, it hits that checkbox for us for nostalgia, because we remember what it was like playing with those systems, and it takes us back to a point in our childhood for most of us, and we really, really dig that. I find as I get older, I gravitate more towards getting my hands on things that are more retro or attached to my childhood in some physical sense, because I guess it makes me, I don't know, I guess it gives me some tactile sensation that also makes me appreciate my nostalgia for the things of my youth. But the kids aren't going to have that. They didn't grow up with those systems. They grew up and experienced more modern games. So they're going to look at that as, well, this is older and this one's newer, so this one must be better because they must have improved on the old one. And I guess from your point of view, that may or may not be true. They're just not going to be coming at it from the same direction we are. So, because I have 20-somethings in my adult group, 20 and 30-somethings in my adult group that didn't play old school D&D back in the day, but have grown fond of the system. And with them, I handled it a bit differently. I just basically said, hey, we're going to play this. I run all the games, so this is what we're going to play. I want you guys to check it out. And, some of them did play old school, so they really appreciated it. And the more we played, the more they came to appreciate it. But when it comes to kids, I wouldn't come at them immediately, first of all, trying to talk about the nostalgia, because they don't get it. They don't have that nostalgia bug when it comes to this kind of stuff. So I would come at it more like, don't take away their modern game. Just say, hey, let's do a special night where we're still playing D&D, but we're going to play this other rule set. It's only going to take a few minutes for you guys to learn. It's super easy, because it is. And I would advise pre-making characters for them to pick from. And, have 1 or 2 sessions laid out. And I would also, because you have to understand that we are used to the concept of characters dying, and if your character makes it a few levels, then that's something to be proud of, because that's how it was back in the day. But now there are so many safety measures in place to save a character that it's actually pretty hard to kill. Comparatively, it's pretty hard to kill a character in modern D&D. And I wouldn't go after killing their characters when you're trying to get them to experience the OSR right off the bat. I would more tailor. I would take more time tailoring the encounters and letting them see some growth with the characters and different things they can do. And just tell them that you're going to put the modern D&D on break for just a little bit so we can try this other thing, just like switching board games. It is an easy game, but it's also easy to die in old school D&D. So that's something you have to be aware of when you're planning out your encounters, or maybe roll behind the screen and, if you have to, fudge the dice to not kill them immediately, because that could get discouraging very quickly for a modern player coming into the OSR to see how fast their characters can die. By all means, your mileage may vary. Your kids better than I do. With my kids, they played enough now, basic fantasy and white box. I don't hold back at all. I'll kill my kids' characters just as fast as I will an adult's character. My daughter has died 3 or 4 times in this current campaign. She just keeps, coming back with the same type character. But the kid has some bad dice rolls. And, that's just a thing. You have to be willing to kill their characters after they've learned how to play the game. Which, again, if they've played modern D&D, playing basic fantasy or white box is going to be very, very pick up and play, very easy, because they use a lot of the same systems. But yeah, just you're going to have to be aware of that. You may not want to go full throttle into it and have their characters in dire peril and dying a lot right at the beginning, because that can be discouraging. So like I said, you may want to tailor your encounters and do what you have to let them barely escape or whatever, and it might whet their appetite more for a simpler system, because once they start playing it, they're going to see that the system is simpler. Even a kid can pick this up. They're going to find out very fast that the system is a lot simpler. One of the things that throws newer players for a loop, I find, is the lack of skills in old school D&D. And they didn't even start putting skills in D&D until the end of the Beckme run, and even then it was optional stuff in the Gazetteers that came out. And later on, in AD&D and 2nd edition, there were more skills. And then 3rd edition took it to a whole new level, and it's just been skills and skills since then. Here's the problem that I find with skills sometimes. And this is not all the time, but sometimes when you have skills pre-laid out in a role-playing game, players can look at those skills, and I don't think they do it intentionally. I think that it just, subliminally, it gets in their head that, oh, these are the skills I have, and this is what I can do. I can't try anything different. One of the things I love about old school D&D, and this is the way I run my white box game or my basic fantasy game, is I don't use skills which aren't in either game. You can get optional skills from other supplements if you want to add them in. But I go back to the ability check. What are you trying to do? Are you trying to forge a document? Are you trying to climb a wall? Are you trying to jump over a pit or whatever? And I go back to, well, that's related to dexterity, so make a dex check. Or that's related to intelligence, make an intelligence check or a wisdom check. And there are multiple ways to do that. Some people do them with a 3d6, and you're trying to get under the number, the stat. I do them with a d20, trying to get under the stat. the beauty of doing it that way, in my opinion, again, this is, my opinion, so take it for what it's worth, is that you don't have a set of skills. So it frees up the player, the child or the adult, to basically look at it and go, wow, what can I do with it? Well, I don't have skills, so how would I go about doing this? Well, you would go, that task, jumping over this pit, would be related to your dexterity. So give me a dexterity check. Okay, you passed. You jumped over the pit. You failed. You fell in the pit. And it kind of, by like not having skills in there, it forces the players to think more and make suggestions about what their character can and can't do. So everybody I know, I've explained it that way to my players and my kids, from the adult game and the kids games, and everybody gets it, and it does to them seem to ease them up more, because they'll be in the middle of the game and be like, well, can I do this? Or how would I do this? Well, that's simple. Make a strength check. Make a dex check. And, obviously the higher the stat is, the better they are at doing that kind of stuff. And I have found that my players like it more like that, because they don't feel restricted to a particular set of skills that are listed on their character sheet. It's more of a, what can I think of cool to do here, and then what stat would that be related to, and then I just make a check where I try to roll under the stat. So that's an aspect that you want to drive home with people, kids or whatever, who have been playing more modern games that are loaded with skills. Now, one of the things, and I'm going to point out a couple of differences here between Basic Fantasy and White Box, and I'm not trashing on either one of them. I will say that if you haven't tried White Box, you should try it with the kids. It's very, very similar to Basic Fantasy, but there are a few tweaks. For instance, one of my kids hated the thief skills, which were the only skills in the game, but the thief abilities or thief skills were, you had the whole line of different skills, and each one had a different percentile number, and they changed differently as they went up, and you had to keep up with that, and you had to roll percentile dice, which, she hated. She just hates rolling percentiles. But in White Box, that is handled on your chart for the thief. As they go up in levels, they simply have a thievery rating, and it starts, I think, at like 2 and goes up to 5. And the way it works is, when a thief wants to use their thievery rate, they want to do something thievery, whether it's, picking a lock, searching for traps, climbing a wall, whatever, picking pockets. If they want to do something like that, all they do is tell you, hey, I want to do this. Then you take a d6, roll it behind the screen where they don't see, and if it's that number or lower, whatever their thievery rate, if they have a 3 in thievery, if it's a 3 or lower, they succeeded. If it's higher, they failed. But you don't tell them until they've actually done until the process of doing the act is over. Because, like it says in the White Box book, a thief always thinks they're successful. So, oh, well, I'm checking for traps on this door. Looks clear to you. And that's the way I always answer that, whether they succeed or fail. It's always, well, looks clear to you. And they might open that door and it is clear, or they might open that door and get a, springboard with nails in the face. But that one thing right there eliminates that whole thievery chart and just gives you one number to keep up with. Also, in some of the expanded classes that you can get from DriveThruRPG for like $2, a lot of them have an ability like that. Not thievery, but like the metaphysician, who is your Van Helsing type character, has I think it's called forbidden lore, or just lore, but it works the same way as the thief. It starts out at like a 2 and it goes up to like a 5 over the course of his levels, or her levels, and whenever they want to use that ability, you roll for it behind the screen, and then you give them information based on whether they passed or failed. There's a hunter that has a track ability like that, specifically for tracking their chosen prey. I find that having that instead of a list of percentile skills makes it a lot easier on new players, and it makes it a lot easier on kids that are trying to play. My kids love it. They absolutely love the fact that they just have that one die roll to keep up with now instead of a whole bunch of percentiles. One of the other things that the kids have loved is in White Box you don't have 4 or 5 saves. Save against poison, magic wands, blah blah blah. You have one save number, and you're simply trying to roll. It starts at a certain point and goes down as they level up, and whenever you need to make a save, you're just rolling a d20 and trying to get above that number. Now, based on your race or class or whatever, you might have a bonus to it, and this is simply handled. Well, is that bonus to everything? No, it's a bonus against, if you're a dwarf, you may have a bonus on saves against magic. Okay. So normally when I make a save, I have to get a 15 or higher. But if it's, I got a +2 against magic. So if you're trying to do something to control my mind, I get to roll the save, but I get a +2 on the roll to save against it. And that makes saves a lot easier to deal with. Now, let me be clear. I'm not saying one system is better than the other, and some people like having all the thief skills and the percentiles. Some people like having all the various saves. And again, the various saves, there are things that as a game master I want my players to save against sometimes that are not really in that save list because it's like 4 or 5 things and it's very specific. I like having the save number so that whenever I want them to make a save, based on, falling down a set of stairs or whatever, I can just have them make the save. And I have already seen multiple times where the kids like that a lot better. So, I don't know. It's just little things like that. There is the fact that it is really fast and easy to make characters. So if you let them play a little bit, and they do get interested, one of the other benefits that you can drive home is how fast it is to make, because they can make a character in like 5 to 10 minutes. They're done. And that's if they're taking their time, the 10-minute end of it. So there are a lot of benefits that make the game simpler, which makes the game run faster, in my experience. And some of those little tweaks can make the game a lot more fun. I don't know any way. I guess it's really hard to pull some people in from more modern games because they look at a game like White Box or Basic Fantasy and to them it's like, oh wow, this is like putting the game on hard mode because I can die so easily. Whereas we look at like 5th edition, and generally we're like, oh, so you're just taking D&D and putting it on the easy mode. Can't really approach it like that with the kids. They don't, because they don't understand it from the nostalgia point of view, because they didn't grow up playing this in the 80s. So, again, that's my suggestion, is pre-make some characters. Do a fun little adventure, even if it's goofy. It doesn't have to be super serious. It could be something goofy and fun that kids will like. First of all, you'll be amazed at some of the ways, without having skills, that they come up with to overcome obstacles in the game. And I don't mean just combat, because that's fairly obvious. But I mean other obstacles in the game. And it has worked for mine. I don't know that these suggestions are going to work for yours. Your kids in particular is what I'm talking about. And I don't really have a surefire way other than just approaching it like this is a special thing. We're going to run this game for the next 2 I don't know when you play, but the next, say you play on Saturday. For the next 2 weeks, we're going to play this game. It's just kind of a special little offshoot that I want you guys to experience and tell me what you think. And let them give you feedback on what they like about it. do it as something special for them, and I think they will be more receptive to it. Um, does that mean that for sure they're going to be like, nope, I want to go? I never want to touch fifth edition ever again. No, I can't tell you that. I don't have a surefire way for that. I'm just telling you how I did it with my kids. But again, I didn't start my kids on modern D&D. I started my kids on old school, and they like it. And I feel like if I handed them a current 5th edition player's handbook, they would probably feel overwhelmed by the amount of information that is in there. So I don't know. I hope that something I said here while I was rambling quite a bit, it helps you out with your kids. I don't know that it does. I don't really have surefire tips and tricks other than get them before 5th ed does. But once 5th ed is, they've already got that bug, they may not be willing to just try something new. So that's why I'm saying don't try to like switch your campaign over or just scrap your campaign and say we're going to play something new. Do a special one-off. I mean, Halloween's coming up. You could always be like, hey, I've got this special game for, it's kind of a haunted house adventure, and I'm going to let you guys play through it, but we're going to use this system, and let them experience that, and do it, related to a holiday. That's something you can do too. You could do a Christmas one where they have to take out a Krampus or something. Those are my suggestions. If I think of more, I'll do another video array and try to put it up for you if I can think of anything else that's helpful. I just don't have a surefire, this is the thing, you do this, kids are going to love it. All I can say is I hope they do. But please let me know if any of this was helpful, and if you tried it out with your kids, and if so, what did they think about it. Also, if you're interested in trying the white box and you haven't picked it up, you can get it off Amazon for like $4.30 or something. It's like $5 with tax. So it's not a big investment if you did want to try that. If you want to stick with basic fantasy, then stick with basic fantasy, but I suggest the same thing. Pre-make their characters so that they can just sit down and play. And do it as a specialized one-shot. Don't try to, just revamp your whole campaign into it. And those are my suggestions for it. Again, Retro DM Ray, I hope this helped you out. I hope you found something useful in it. And if you did, let me know. Well, I hope that you found something in that video useful or something you could take away from it. Either way, I appreciate you watching this long. Don't forget that we have the link to the Amazon wish list for Rob's Game Group in the description of every video now. You can click on that, check out the wish list. If there's product on there that you want to see me review, you can always purchase it. Amazon will do all the work, ship it to me, and it helps me help you help me make videos for everybody to enjoy. Also like, share, subscribe, all that jazz. And until next time, my friends, good gaming and good luck.